Okay, I was asked how I color eyes in Paint Tool SI. So I'm going to make a new layer. I do it under the line art. You can do it over the line art. Obviously just do multiply above the line art or normal below the line art. I like to pick a slightly desaturated color for eyes because I think, super bright eyes just, stands out a little bit too much. So I'm gonna color that in. One eye, two eyes. Color it outside the lines just a little bit. There we go. New layer, clipping group, and I'm just gonna start using progressively darker shades. So I'm basically gonna cover the top 2/3 of the eye. A little darker shade, a little bit higher than that. So I'm basically going to make a gradient once I blur this all together. Basically you want to get it close to black at the very, very top edge. And now I'm just going to blend all that together. You can even put it on multiply if you want to get like a darker color. But I'm just going to use normal because I'm pretty comfortable with my shading choices. If you're kind of more new to your shading choices, you might just want to use the base tone on multiply and then just kind of lower the opacity and keep doing this on a new layer. Okay, so I'm going to merge that down, new layer, clipping group again, because I can't color outside what I colored in on the layer below it. So let me show you. That was a blur tool. There we go, see? Yes, that does. Alrighty. I like to make the very top edge kind of like a dark black. So I'm gonna basically use a very, very dark green, not quite black, but almost, for the very, very top edge. I'm just gonna kind of swoop that around. I'm just gonna blur that. I like it when it looks a little more gradiented. I'm gonna lower the opacity a little bit. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. Zoom out. I like how it gradients. It looks very nice to me. New layer, clipping group. Probably do this on overlay if you're not comfortable with selecting lighter colors. Or if you are, just do it on normal. So pick a little bit lighter shade, pen tool, and just kind of color that in a little bit. Cut in a little bit lighter inside that, and then like a little bit more of a white, like right inside the middle of that to give it a little bit of a shine, and just blur those together. And zoom out, see it's getting kind of a little bit more of a dimension. New layer, clipping group. This is where I like to use Luminosity, actually. I use a very, very light color of whatever the base color is. So for me, it's a very, very light green. And I use a pen tool, and I basically make a U shape under the pupil. Gonna lower the opacity a bit, because it basically turns out a white at first. Just kind of blur it. Just the strength is needed. Okay. I feel like the bottom edge has too much brightness, so I'm going to go in, clipping group, and I'm going to use a very dark color. And I'm just going to line the very, very inside edge of the eyes. And blur that out. You can put it on multiply if you want. I think I like the darkening I get from multiply. Zoom out a little bit. Yeah, you can see the difference that makes. Okay. Finally, I like how that looks, but it looks kind of flat still. So, I I usually don't do clipping group for the white, but I just take white, pen tool, and I pick a very, very small brush, maybe about the size of the pupil, a little bit bigger. So the pupil's about a 6 pixel, I'm using about an 8 pixel, and I figure the direction of the light, so I have shading coming down here, so my light source is the top right hand corner. So I'm just gonna put a little dot here, and I'll put a little dot down here, and up there, and a little one down there. And you can blur that if you want. I like having them very, very crisp. You can even put that on top of the line art if you like it a little bit better. You can lower the opacity a little bit if you need to. But that's basically how I do eyes. You can see the end result. I really like this look. You can put a lot more work into it using the same basic steps, but hope you like it.